Warning: the following episode contains mature subject matters, mentions of immigrant culture, and a Brazilian host with the energy of a chaotic vampire. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to The Laura Faritos Show. My name is Laura Faritos, and this is my show. That sums it up. This is episode 5, interview with Ana Saplala. Enjoy. Avassalador, cara interessante, esculacho teu amante, até o teu ficante, mas não se esqueça que eu sou vagabundo, depois que a putaria começou a rolar no mundo. All right. And I'm sitting here with my friend from RTA Media Production, Ana Saplala. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you are.
More importantly, can you pronounce my name?
Well, Laura Machado Faria.
Look at that. Look at that. Wow. Flawless. So, folks, the reason I'm interviewing Ana is because ever since we've become acquainted here, I have been fascinated by her knowledge of Brazilian culture. She is so much more Brazilian than me, y'all. Like, it's not even funny.
No, don't say that.
Like, she's constantly referring to Brazilian pop culture that I'm not aware of. She's constantly sending me memes that are current that I don't even, like, she follows meme pages I don't follow, and like she knows all the memes from Inês Brasil and like
It's not just Inês, it's a bunch of other things too. I mean, it's not even that I follow the pages, it's just that they pop up on my algorithm as soon as I start saving one of them.
I think that's hilarious. I think that's hilarious in so many levels. So the thing that I find the most interesting about Ana is that she is a immigrant as well, just like me. Ana, why don't you tell my listeners about where you come from and how you ended up in Canada?
I came to Canada from Manila, where I was born, in 2010. So I was 8, and unlike a lot of Filipinos who immigrate to Canada, they usually immigrate to a Filipino community within Canada. They already settle there. But for me, I immigrated to an Italian community, so I ended up engaging with that community, even if by force. So I learned to also engage with other cultures by using the resources that I had. I mean, I lived near a public library, I had access to a computer, I had access to the internet. So a lot of what I ended up knowing about Brazilian culture as a result of a lot of second-hand discoveries or first-hand discoveries, because no one really introduced me to it. I just ended up there. But yeah, I settled in a community that wasn't Filipino, and I think that's the most important part to stress, because I think it's a case that happens to a lot of immigrants in Canada, where they have to engage in something called cultural osmosis. They're just absorbing other cultures that exist within, the city.
It's like assimilation beyond just the local culture.
I don't necessarily think it's there are cases like systemically where it's assimilation, but in terms of, outside of those systems, and when you're just trying to discover things for yourself and trying to find, beauty in what's really mundane about the city, you get a sense of, like, different parts of the world being here, being just at your fingertips, and I think it's a huge privilege. So, yeah, I mean, it is part assimilation in terms of trying to fit into social systems, but in terms of trying to interact with systems outside of it, and trying to interact with communities outside of that, I think it's far more rewarding.
That's amazing. And when you were in these communities, what languages were more prominently spoken to you?
I mean, obviously English, because I don't have many opportunities to speak Tagalog. I mean, whenever I do get to go to a Filipino business, or I get to go to a Filipino restaurant and I see that there are employees who are Filipino, I try to use it as much as possible. But because I was in a mostly white community, I didn't really have the opportunity to really continue to develop the language I already knew coming to Canada. So the languages I ended up being taught were obviously French and Italian, and the rest of the languages that I know now I have learned from other media in that language or from other personal discoveries with that media.
So, okay, I know that we want to do a segment later in this episode where I'm gonna test your knowledge of Brazilian language with cuss words. But how familiar are you with cuss words in these other languages that you've told me about?
Relatively familiar because, I mean, I used to hear them all the time, but because a lot of what I've discovered about Brazilian culture has kind of eclipsed, or slightly eclipsed, all the other cultures I learn about, and I try to balance them out as much as...
We're very culturally rich, that's true.
I mean, I try to balance them out as much as possible, but, like, I feel like I know a way more in like, cuss words in Portuguese than other languages. I feel like they do overlap.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to your overall engagement with Brazilian culture, would you say that that's limited to music, or is
It's never ever limited to music.
Okay.
Especially now. It used to be limited to music because that's exactly how I discovered it. I did have a family friend who was Brazilian, and the first time, I think my first ever exposure to Brazilian culture that I feel was very vindicated is during, like, a baby shower that she had, and I had a brigadeiro for the first time, but I didn't know what the hell that was.
I love brigadeiros.
I didn't know what that was. I had a coxinha for the first time. I didn't know what that was. So I was very oblivious to what Brazilian culture was up until I discovered Marcos Valle on YouTube, because around 2017, 2018, there was this resurgence of city pop that just shook the algorithm of musical discoveries on YouTube. And I hopped into that rabbit hole, and I ended up where Marcos Valle's 1983 self-titled album was, and from then on, I just never ever got out of that rabbit hole. I have been staying in it, and I am glad that I have benefited from it in a way that is still very respectful towards the culture that he has helped create.
One thing that I find really funny that I should stress to the listeners here is that one of the major bonding factors that Anna and I had was that when she was showing me her Spotify artists and pointing out her most listened to Brazilian artists, one of the artists that was among her top 3 listens to happens to be somebody I'm related to. Anna, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
No, I'm shocked that you're related to Ana Frango Elétrico, because I discovered her, I discovered them, excuse me, I discovered them a couple of, I think back in 2018, and I think it was their first, album that I discovered.
Little Electric Chicken Heart?
That's their sophomore album. Mormaço Queimas, I think is what it's called. Mormaço Queimas, correct me if I'm wrong.
She knows more about my cousin's discography than I do. Aninha.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Aninha, my cousin, Aninha, if you're listening to this, I am sorry. I thought Little Electric Chicken Heart was your only album, and apparently it isn't. I'm sorry, I'm a poser.
It's Mormaço Queimas. But I discovered Anna through there, and from then on I was like, oh, this is really good, because I didn't know what current Brazilian music really sounded like before then. I was really stuck listening to a lot of
classics?
A lot of classics, so Jorge Ben, Jorge Berto, Milton Nascimento, Gal Costa. I didn't really know, like, oh, what does current Brazilian music actually sound like? And lo and behold, your cousin. And but at first I wasn't convinced by the first album, but then when I listened to Little Electric Chicken Heart, I was like, oh, this is something worth writing about. So I did write about it. And then your cousin ended up noticing it, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, you wrote about it?
I wrote about it, like, if it's 2030, I wrote about it 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Where did you write about it?
It is on my, this is when I used to write little prose things about albums I listened to on my Instagram page. I no longer do that, but I only stopped last year. But back in 2018, when I listened to Little Electric Chicken Heart, I was like, this is really mesmerizing. I want to find more of this, but first, I want to write about it. So I wrote a little prose thing about it, and I inserted this picture of Walking Wounded by Everything But the Girl in like the image for the post. And Aninya happened to take notice, and they were like, oh, I was just listening to Everything But the Girl. And like, that's because I was paying attention. So, yeah, I've just branched out of that ever since. I still really appreciate everything that Aninya's been putting out recently. But yeah, that's pretty much how I ended up discovering Ana Frango Elétrico.
What would you say is your favorite song by Ana Frango Elétrico?
Oh, that's tricky. Probably God, if I could look it up right now, I could. I would say Promessas e Provisões. That's a really good song from them. I think it's one of their best. But Promessas e Provisões.
Promessas e Provisões. Okay. Again, cousin, I'm sorry, I don't know the song, but I will look it up.
You should look it up. It's incredible.
I mean, everyone listening to this should also look it up. Please go listen to Ana Frango Elétrico.
Please, Laura's cousin makes some fire music.
What's the name of that guy? That guy who rated it really highly.
I do not remember. Oh, Anthony Fantano, the
bald guy.
Anthony Fantano, the internet's busiest music nerd.
Yeah, he rated it like an 8.
He gave it an 8. He gives a lot of international albums an 8.
That's good. See, this is all the more of a reason if you know this guy and you think that he's really
guys, it's
harsh,
just it's just his music. But at the end of the day, though, it's just his opinion.
Yes. Okay. Well, one thing that I find fascinating about Ana when it comes to, your journalistic experience is that you've been to more Brazilian events in Toronto than I have. And not only have you been to these events, you've done editorial press in these events, and you've gotten to interview...
Whoa, editorial's a bit much, but I have interviewed...
I would call that editorial still. And you've gotten to interview celebrities that, for Brazilians who listen to that would be amazing. To me, when you told me all those names, I was like, that means nothing. But I recognize credit where credit's due. So why don't you talk a little bit about your experiences interviewing Brazilian artists?
Oh, thank you. I mean, first of all, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate my work. But I guess to begin, the events that I would attend here that had Brazilian audiences, I've attended Terreiro de Samba, which is at Lula Lounge. They hold it at different times during the year. I've attended the election edition. I've attended the carnival edition. I will not be attending the São Jorge edition because I have no idea what that holiday is. But all respect, but all respect to all respect where respect's due. But I've had a good time at those events, and the funny thing is, whenever I've taken people to those events, those people have lost me at those events. They've always managed to find me.
What do you mean they've lost you?
They've lost me. Like I
wander
around, I maneuver, and they're like, "You blend in with those people so well." I said, "I am not doing anything, or I'm not trying to do anything to do it."
Have you ever been to a Festa Junina?
I've never been to a Festa Junina.
Oh my God! This year in June, I'm gonna take you to a Festa Junina, and I wanna see whether you're gonna blend in the crowd with that, because that Festa Junina requires makeup and costume, but it's
I don't do makeup out here.
Oh my God, it would be so fun to see you at a Festa Junina. You have to look like a Brazilian hick, a Brazilian hick with like, you have to have red cheeks with like polka dots all over it. You have to have braids.
Como uma pessoa de sertão?
Yes, yeah. Festa Junina is basically something that we do around the month of June, and it's like celebrating the culture of like the north, and it's just really, really fun. And I would love to see you dancing there and like blending in. When I took my friend Jessica, she did the same thing. She just wandered around, she disappeared, and before I knew it, Jessica was like making out with a Brazilian, and I was like, what is going on? Like
Anyway, going back to the other event that I attended, this was actually a little bit recently. I attended a Mixto festival, and this happened last summer, so around early July. the way that I ended up at that festival is that I do some volunteer work for the campus station here, CGRU, and I have done some cataloging for albums, meaning that I filled out information for albums, I've reviewed them. So one day, I emailed my supervisor for the cataloging, and I asked them, is it okay if I propose some albums that might be useful for like the international section? And I listed down a lot of international albums, but a lot of the albums I listed were by Brazilian artists, because I had reviewed an album by a Brazilian artist that someone else already reviewed, and I did it by accident, and I really didn't mean to, but once I started writing my own version of that review, I was like, there's got to be more out there. So I proposed the list of those albums to my supervisor, and they just hit me back and said, do you just want to go to a festival where you can see them? And I said, yeah, sure. And when I looked at the lineup for Mixto, you had Xenia França opening, you had Seu closing, and in the middle you had Francisco El Hombre alongside all these other wonderful international acts, like Bombino. And I just thought, you know what, if I don't get this opportunity now, I may never get it again. So I just went all out and interviewed all three of those artists, and I walked away with an experience that I feel is really rewarding, because I'm glad that they were able to acknowledge the fact that I have a deep love and respect for their culture, and that after years and years of being invested in that culture, deeply invested, it's really paid off. I remember interviewing Francisco El Hombre, and that interview wasn't planned beforehand. My supervisor just saw that I had a lot of time before I would interview Seu later that night. So she just texted me. She said, "Do you want to interview Francisco El Hombre? They're available after their show." And I said, "I don't know who they are, but I'm willing to try." So I had 90 minutes before they would get on stage. For 90 minutes, I listened to their album Solta Bruxas, and using my phone, I just opened up a bunch of Google Chrome tabs, and I just did a bunch of research on them, and I was just writing really friskily in my notebook, and I was just looking and just translating all the interviews and seeing, okay, what questions haven't people asked them yet? What questions do you think they're gonna walk away with knowing that, oh, someone really values our music? And I didn't even know who the band were. And I finally got to see them live. After 90 minutes, I saw them get on stage. They absolutely brought an amazing amount of energy. And I ended up interviewing them after. And a couple of minutes before I interviewed Seu, at the end of the night, the drummer, Sebastian, shout out to Seb if you're listening to this, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to interview you and the group. But Sebastian came up to me and he said, I just want to say thank you for thank you for interviewing us, thank you for having that, for giving us for asking us those questions, because we usually don't get those kinds of questions, and we get interviewed by many big news platforms and journalists, and they never ask questions that have this much thought into it. And I'm glad that you put a lot of thought into those questions, and a lot of research, because it shows me that you must be a very intelligent person. And I said, thank you very much.
Well, that must have meant a lot.
Yeah, and I went into that Seu interview at the end of the night at 11:45. I went into that interview before midnight, absolutely confident that, yeah, I'm gonna kill this. This is the biggest artist I'm gonna interview, so I walked in there confident, I came out confident, and I'm glad that a lot of those years of me just having this deep-seated interest that, I thought, oh man, this is gonna be really, is this really gonna benefit me in the long run? Is this penchant going to be useful? And I realize now it is so much more valuable than I would still know now. It's more valuable than I know, and I recognize that, but I feel like there are things I don't know that will become even more valuable later on, because I just have this deep appreciation for Brazilian culture.
And when it comes to your all-time favorite artists, if you could pick 5 of them to interview, who would it be?
Oh God, I hope I can.
Brazilian artists.
Brazilians specifically. Okay, well, a lot of them would be current because I don't know when Georgie Bain will drop dead. That is my biggest fear. If Georgie Bain drops dead, I'll never interview. I'd like to interview him, but I'm not sure how good he is at English. I feel like that's a factor too. But Georgie Bain, I would like to interview. Hopefully, obviously, I'd like to interview Marina Sena.
Anna is obsessed with Marina Sena.
Currently. You never know. Marina Sena. I'd like to interview Lucy Alves because I think she's bringing something unique to the Northeastern sound right now that I don't think has been there for a long time. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Any Brazilians who listen to this. Any nordestinos, please. So, Jorge Ben, Marina Sena, Lucy Alves. I'd love to interview Luigi Luna, who's a good friend of Xenia França, who I interviewed. I'd like to get her perspective on how she views black womanhood in Brazil. I think she has a very unique perspective of it. God, who else would I want to interview? I have 3. I guess I would also like to interview God, my mind's drawing a blank. Fleezus. I would like to interview Fleezus because he represents something alongside so many MCs right now in Brazilian grime. Like grime is in UK grime, but Brazilian. He represents a shift in Brazilian lyricism that I think is really unique and is making grime a very global genre and culture and movement. And again, grime is a culture that I ended up, the grime culture of the UK is something I ended up exposing myself to. So I'm glad to see that its globalization is evident within his music. So
for anyone listening who doesn't know what grime is, what would you describe it as?
Grime is a subset of electronic music, firstly. Electronic and dance music. A lot of people mistake it for hip-hop. But grime is based in the UK. It started in the UK. It stemmed out of garage, and it stemmed out of jungle, and it stemmed out of drum and bass and two-step, which broke through in the mainstream, but it wasn't until these marginalized communities from these council estates started recording on PlayStation music software and started making use of pirate radio signals to really give a voice to the people around them and to the communities around them. That is where grime comes from. Grime comes from the margins of English and Black British culture, and the fact that it has become global and it has stretched all the way to São Paulo, that's a big achievement in itself, because I know grime exists in other places, but I don't think its global imprint has been as evident as it has been in São Paulo. So Fleezus is another one. So I have 4 now. God. And Jesus. A lot of the ones I'd like to interview are already dead, so the 4 that I have currently, I definitely still be able to do, but, so I have those 4, and the final one I guess I really want to interview is Dona Onechi, because she has worked with Francisco Alombre before, but I knew her before that, and she's an individual who represents a piece of history. She has helped protect and preserve the culture of Pará in Brazil to great effect. She is a teacher, she is a historian. She means many things to that region or that region that she calls her country. And I want to be able to learn and understand how the art of a place and its people is preserved in this way by her, because she does it in a unique way that I've never seen from any other storyteller. I think she brings a unique voice to the people of Pará that I would at least like to interview her before God knows when she drops dead. But this is such a difficult question, because I like so many Brazilian artists that the 5 artists that I've just named, not all of them are set in stone, apart from I guess the first 3 or 4.
But I feel like any Brazilian listeners that know the artists you're talking about are gonna absolutely lose their minds at the fact that you know these people.
If I could add an honorable 6, I would love to interview Ludmilla. I would love to interview Ludmilla.
I'm sure Ludmilla would love to be interviewed by you. Tell me this, when it comes to the idea of traveling and visiting Brazil, what places would be your top go-to based on everything you know
Top
about
go to.
Brazil?
Oh, okay. Top 3. I can make a 5. No. 3. Ditching. Okay. First of all, I will ditch São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. I feel like they'll always be there. Okay.
Fair.
I'm not saying those two places are overrated, but there are other great places. The first place I'd like to go to is Minas Gerais. I mean,
Nice.
because the Brazilian football club that as you should have prefaced that I'm an absolute football nerd, but the Brazilian club that I support is Atlético Mineiro, and they're from Minas Gerais. But apart from that, I think Minas Gerais is a unique place to visit in general because obviously of the mining, the cheese. Like these are very surface level things, but I think it's a beautiful city that I like to visit. Another one is Recife because a lot of the Brazilian artists that I love
Recife is really pretty.
are from Recife. So people like Chico Cienci and Querosene Jacaré, those. Also, I forgot to mention a lot of artists from that I like from Brazil are from Minas Gerais as well. So I would like to visit that area as well. But I like to visit Recife because they play that city plays an important role in Brazil's ecology and ecological identity, and the fact that the whole Mangue Beach movement stemmed out of that. I really appreciate, and I deeply admire what the causes for that manifesto were and the music that stemmed out of it. And I would like to go there not just to better understand that manifesto, but to also understand the legacy of that manifesto and what that brought to the ecology of Recife and Brazil as a whole. And then the third city I'd like to visit is Maranhão, just because I've seen it in some global novellas. I think that looks like a gorgeous city to visit. I'm in love with the way that the architecture is portrayed in that media, and I know that some of that is true to form, and I know some of it isn't, but I think Maranhão is a very special place in the Northeast that I'm sure everybody in Brazil recognizes, but from what they're seeing, but I think it's a very special part of the Northeast that I'd just like to go to.
Okay, so Minas Gerais, Recife, Maranhão. Those are really good picks. Not at all the mainstream usual ones that the gringos like to pick. When I think about Recife, do you know what I think about?
Crabs?
Shark attacks.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, because when I was 7 years old, I was in the, what do you call Orla?
I do not know.
Like the sidewalk in front of the beach that you see.
The boardwalk.
Boardwalk. That, boardwalk.
It's boardwalk. That's what they call it here.
I was sitting at the boardwalk with my mom, and we were watching this guy surfing, and the waves in Recife are really high. It's very almost like Hawaii. And this guy was surfing, and my mom was like, Laura, you cannot learn how to surf because you could be attacked by a shark. And I was like, Mother, that's ridiculous. This man is surfing, and he's not being attacked by a shark. And she was like, we'll see how long that lasts. And I shit you not, in less than 5 minutes since that conversation, this man was attacked by a shark. And it was a whole thing. The lifeguard had to go get him. They basically had to do an entire wrestling match to get this man into the boat from the shark trying to get him. Afterwards, when they took him to the ambulance, it was one of his legs was basically gone. The shark just kept a snack. And later that week, they ended up catching the shark and displaying it, and it was a bull shark. And those motherfuckers are bull sharks?
I forgot to mention. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that those things are scary. I forgot to mention the reason why I want to visit Recife. I guess the main reason is not just because of the ecology, but
not because of sharks.
Not because of sharks or the ecology. No, not just because of the ecology. Because I think Recife is environmental identity is really important. But I also have a good friend who lives in Recife and is currently teaching there. So Rafael, if you're listening to this, thank you very, very much for making me appreciate your culture as well.
Thank you, Rafael, for making her appreciate our culture. I appreciate you now. Person I don't know, thank you. Okay, so as we reach the end of the episode, I think it is important, we get to the nitty-gritty important stuff. And what's really, really, really important is cuss words in multiple languages. Let's begin with Italian. What cussing do you know in Italian?
Mannaggia,
What does that
cazzo.
mean?
Mannaggia just means motherfucker. I mean, I'm sorry, not motherfucker. Mannaggia. Mannaggia is like an exclamation. Mama fangulo is motherfucker. But
Mafanculo.
mafanculo. But
I know vafanculo.
yeah. But the most common one I think in Italian, the most common cuss word is cazzo.
Yeah.
Cazzo means just fuck. You know, or cazzo can mean
I
yeah,
always
crazy.
thought cazzo meant dick.
I don't exactly know the versatility of that word. To be honest, I haven't spoken Italian in a very long time.
Cazzo.
I've
I
been
always thought it was dick. What else?
that's about it. I can't really remember.
Okay, let me add 2 cuss words in Italian for you then. Stronzo, that basically just means like poop. A person who is a poop.
I didn't know you were half Italian.
Huh?
I didn't know you were half Italian.
I'm not half Italian. I just know way too many cuss words in Italian because of my mom's first husband.
Okay, that's fair.
Stronzo, you should add that to your...
Stronzo. Okay.
You should also add troia, means hoe. Like the Helen of Troy.
Oh, that's
Troia.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I know, it's horrible. Okay, what other languages did you say you knew?
I know Spanish. I know obviously more Portuguese. I know Tagalog. I don't know French.
Okay, 3 swear words that you know in Spanish.
Was it puta? I'm not even saying it in Spanish. Puta means whore, but also puta can mean fuck, right?
Mhm.
So there's puta. There's culo, which is what is culo? Culo is like
Asshole, no?
ass. Culo is asshole, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's God. And then there's mierda, which means shit. I know more than what I can list right now, but
That's
you're
fair,
putting me
that's
on the
fair.
spot. So
Okay. What about in your native tongue?
oh, okay, in Tagalog. Okay, we have putang ina mo, which is like the most common one.
Wait, how do you pronounce that? I want to learn.
Putang ina mo, putang ina mo, putang ina,
Putamina mo.
putang ina mo.
Putalina mo.
I don't think you'll get it.
Inamo? Minamo?
Putang ina, putang
Inan mo.
ina no ina,
Ina.
which means you motherfucker. Putang ina mo.
Ina mo.
Yes.
I'll get it. I'll learn.
So there's that,
Motherfucker.
and then there's a lot that I can't think of because again I don't get many opportunities to speak Tagalog, so
That's
I
fair. That's a fair point. Okay, what about Portuguese then? What are the
Oh
words
God!
you know in
Okay, there you
Portuguese?
go. See, there's puta que pariu. There's
Puta que pariu.
there's
That's
there's caralho. There's
how do we even
caramba.
translate puta que pariu to English?
That's a good question. I don't even know what it is.
It's like whore who just birthed.
There's filho da puta. There's
Son of a bitch.
there's caraca,
Caralho.
caralho, caramba, vaca,
Vaca cow.
cassete.
Cacete. I use that
I
a
use
lot.
cassete. There's a bunch that I can't even name right now.
I would say my favorite cuss words in Portuguese are porra.
Yes, Paul has one.
I use porra a lot. Caralho. Cacete. Filho da puta. Cusão.
Oh my.
Zé Buceta. Arrombado. I'm telling you, I'm gonna teach my audience how to say the worst things in Portuguese. Did you know all those words?
Isn't cachorro also like a bit of a...
Sometimes, yeah, you can call a person a dog.
Yeah.
Okay, did you know all of the words that I said, or was any of them new?
Like 25%. Not 25. I'm overestimating myself. 10 to 15% of them.
Okay, do you know what arrombado means?
I've heard of it.
Arrombado is a person whose asshole has been enlarged. Zé Buceta is my favorite, and that's
because people
basically-
because the Brazilians or Portuguese speakers will mistake it for the Spanish word for bus, which is la buceta.
Yeah, but
So-
no, Zé Buceta is like Pussy Joe. This is a person who's not only a coward, but an annoying fucking coward. It's a Pussy Joe. It's a little Zé Buceta thinking he can go around and just do Pussy Joe things.
Would you consider cafajeste a curse word, or is it
Yes,
just
cafajeste is like a douchebag.
Yeah, there you go. Cafajeste is another one.
Well, Ana, thank you so much for this amazing interview.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
sure my Brazilian friends are gonna lose their shit about this. Is there anything you would want to say in Portuguese for any Brazilians listening to this?
Se de onde vocês amigas. Look, if one of them ends up in my bed, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's if they listen to this. Don't take my word for it, please. I'm much nicer than this.
Well, this was Ana Saplala for you. Ana, do you want to plug any social media for anyone who would like to follow you?
Yeah, sure. Follow me at Darnell_Duckworth on Instagram. That's DARNELL_DUCKWORTH. Darnell Duckworth. Darnell_Duckworth. On Instagram. And yeah,
Any
that's
projects you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I mean, I am doing a Spirit Live show called For the Kids. I've been in my second season. It's me combining all of my interests in art and football and music and film, and it's a good time. That you can find on Instagram at ftk.jpg, and on YouTube you can just find it as at Boo Boo Snack. That's BOOBOOSNACK. That's BOOBOOSNACK at Boo Boo Snack on YouTube. But apart from that, thank you for having me as always. I mean, this is my first time. Why am I saying always?
Well, because I am going to have you on more interviews, and we have way too much that we need to talk about here. I'm just glad that I got to prove to people that there are gringos and gringas that just really appreciate our culture, even when Brazilians themselves don't appreciate it. And by Brazilians themselves, I mean
sometimes, yeah, sometimes, I mean, well, sometimes, I don't know, maybe sometimes we will have to serve as a reminder for you.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
we're not trying to take over you guys. We're just trying to remind you.
Yeah, that our culture is more than we think it is. We don't have to keep constantly trying to be Americanized to be valued, you know? And we also don't have to try to assimilate with our Spanish-speaking friends in order to be appreciated. I think two things can be true at once. And Ana is here to prove that. And this was the episode. You've made it to the end. You listened to my voice this whole time and it didn't drive you crazy. Congratulations! Thank you so much for supporting me. I truly appreciate it. If it wasn't for you, I would be talking to myself. So, thank you! And this was the episode. You've made it to the end. You listened to my voice this whole time and it didn't drive you crazy. Congratulations! Thank you so much for supporting me. I truly appreciate it. If it wasn't for you, I would be talking to myself. So, thank you! If you'd like to stay up to date with my weekly episodes and occasional videos, please follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Laura Faritos. If you'd like to stay up to date with my work besides the show, please go ahead and sign up for my monthly newsletter. There, I summarize key takeaways from my episodes, I share links to any other content I produce, and I also include tickets to comedy shows, so that's always nice. Finally, if you'd like to take an extra step and support the making of the show, please consider making a one-time donation, buying my merch, or signing up for my Patreon for just $2 a month. You get all my content ad-free, full-length, and sometimes even the behind-the-scenes process. I'm looking at you, media production students. You like the show? Do you? Do you? You like the show? Prove it. Give me your money. Pay me cash. Dollars. I want dollars. This has been a public service announcement. see you in the next episode. Tchau, tchau.
Sou foda.